Welcome to episode 2 of the Joystick. I'm your host, Eli York. Joining here today is Josh Erales from Kane Live and Ricky Moctezuma for Tempest.
Hey,
So today we're going to be going over the top 5 worst video games of all time. And we have Josh and Ricky here because we're both avid gamers here today. So we're just going to go right into number 5 at E.T. the Extraterrestrial.
Oof.
Such a bad game. It was developed for the Atari 2600. We're gonna have to give it a little bit of credit because it was made in 1982.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's still it's an old game.
You can't really compare it to games today.
Yeah, you can't. It's just it's super old. So I don't really blame it for being such a bad game.
But then again, Pong was an instant classic. And
Yeah, I know exactly.
Games,
so I mean, yeah, we have to. Yeah, I get it. It was designed by Howard Scott Warshaw.
We don't know.
Yeah, we don't
Just
know.
a random guy.
So the game was cubic. So it's on the Atari, so it's all like pixely and it's just like it's not really super crazy. It's not like games we have today where you have like quests and stuff and you go on those quests in a big open world, stuff like that.
That's kind of how it was back then, though. Right?
Yeah, I know.
was
So it's so blank. Like there's nothing.
The
There's some
gameplay.
screenshots here.
Well, so the world consisted of basically like a gray and black screen, right?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So it was a gray and black screen. It was all cubic, and you would fall in. Well, you played as E.T., I guess, and you would fall into these little like pit things.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. There's just these. The screen, it's actually all green, but it's all like different shades of green, and it looks disgusting. And there's these giant like ovals on the ground, which I guess are the pits that you're talking about.
Yeah. So that's E.T. So Howard Scott Warshaw, that's a mouthful. He intended the game to be like an awesome adaptation of the film. They thought the game devs thought it would achieve like super high sales because E.T. had come out, I believe, the year before. So this is 1982. It came for the 1982 Christmas season, and it was critically panned. It was awful. It was awful because it's just an awful game. Yeah.
Yeah, so I would also recommend watching the documentary over E.T. the Extraterrestrial, how bad of a game it was, and how they would have to actually go to a landfill to find like them buried. I'm not joking. This was an entire documentary. It was so good.
Since he had to get it in time for the Christmas season, and apparently he got the rights to make the game in July of '82, so he had literally 5.5 weeks to develop the game.
Yeah,
so
that
could probably be seen as an explanation. And apparently it was a major contributing factor to the game industry crash of '83 as well.
But I mean, like, then again, 5 weeks. Let's talk about those little game jams and stuff like that, where guys get like 3 days to work on something, and the game ends up being like pretty popular. Like, go to like whatever those games.
Yeah, wasn't like Broforce a game jam game? I think it was.
Maybe
I
I
remember
don't
reading
know.
that.
That was Devolver, right?
I mean, either way, if it was really good. I'm sure they developed it further, but it started as one, I think.
At the number 4 spot, we have Superman 64.
Oh man.
So
Superman.
This is hilarious.
It was made for the N64 in 1999. So it's a little bit newer. It's not entirely new, but it was still it was 3D. All right, so we'll put that in perspective.
What is 3D though? Like,
you've got like you know how you have your Atari
you have like
top
your X,
downs.
Y, and Z dimensions.
Yeah, it's just it's kind of like when you're making a game this old and it's in 3D, it's just not a good idea. And that's exactly why you don't do it, because it was criticized for poor controls. I mean, they were awful.
oh yeah.
Graphics were like terrible.
Everything was trying.
Yeah.
Let's just talk about graphics. I have a picture of it here if y'all can see that.
Oh yes, I remember. I've seen videos
graphics
of this.
look pretty bad. It looks sort of like, well, so it's set in Metropolis, I guess, which is the Superman city. Mm-hmm. The graphics are either shades of puke green or doo-doo brown, and a little
Or just
bit
gray.
of light gray. Yeah, or like kind of white gray. And Superman himself looks like he came out of like the dishwasher or something like that. Like
Yeah.
he is red and blue, but not the right kinds of red and blue.
So this game took 2 years to make.
Dear God.
That's a long time for a game. So put in perspective, the ET game was made in
5.5 weeks.
5.5 weeks. This game took 2 years. That's a long time.
And was still worse than E.T.
It was still worse, and it was based off of the Superman animated series. So I mean, they really wanted to make a game based off of that.
Yeah, you'll notice a lot of these are like film or TV adaptations.
Yeah, so it was
that
made
never
for
seem to
like
end well.
really retro consoles, like the N64.
But it was
you
still released in '99, right?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
They made it for the Sega Saturn, which is an ancient name.
Here's something really interesting. The plot of the game is Lex Luthor has created a virtual reality thing, I don't know, that he sucks Superman into. And that is
So
why the
90s.
game looks terrible. It's because Lex Luthor made a video game.
Because Lex Luthor's bad at making
Yeah,
video games.
that's why.
Is that really the plot?
Yeah,
that's
that's
actually the plot.
that's the
It
plot.
says, let me see. Let me go to
Well,
Wikipedia.
I mean, that's a pretty good cover.
That is a good cover, but
You
that
think
is
Lex
also
Luthor could
a
hire
lazy-
some decent video game developers? I mean, he's like super rich.
And like
Okay.
one of the main like parts of gameplay is literally flying through
Rings.
Rings.
The first level is that you have to fly through these rings, but it's like stupendously difficult.
It
like,
is because the controls are awful.
Yeah,
I mean,
like
they're
I've seen
garbage.
so many videos on YouTube and stuff. People cannot pass the first level, and it's hilarious because it looks like an awful game. Like it shouldn't even be that hard, but like, I mean, it's almost impossible.
Y'all all know from the classic Superman movie, 1970 whatever, when Superman flew through 70 rings just to get like a gold star. You know, y'all from like the
I don't
first
think
30
I've
minutes.
watched
I don't think I've watched that either.
Well, yeah, because that's not part of the movie. That never happens. Let's talk
Yeah,
about
that
the plot of
explains-
this video game, and this is straight from
I was like,
Wikipedia.
wow. I mean, they got really
No.
whack in the 70s.
No. Lex Luthor has created a virtual version of Metropolis and manages to trap Lois Lane, Jimmy Olsen, and Professor Emil Hamilton within it. Superman enters the portal to the virtual world, where Luthor tells him that he must fly through his maze of rings scattered across virtual Metropolis. And after completing the rings test, Superman realizes he must save his friends from the virtual realm.
You know, after he does the rings thing.
Yes. Villains he battles along the way include Parasite, Darkseid, Brainiac, Mala, and Metallo. I don't know those. And at the end of the game, Superman frees his friends from virtual Metropolis, but Lex manages to escape, and it ends on an unresolved cliffhanger. As if
Well-
they thought they were going to make a sequel? Are you kidding me?
Well, also, like, why is it such a surprise that Lex Luthor could escape his own game? Like, you think
Yeah,
he'd be
I know.
able to do that?
This is the most dangerous game.
So it was just an awful game. So that's why we put it at the number 4 spot. At the number 3 spot, we have The Simpsons skateboarding.
You can tell from the title.
Now, I personally liked this game. I don't know like
I don't
why.
think I've played it.
Y'all, this is just a ripoff of Skate. That's it. This is Pro Skater. This is Simpsons Pro Skater. That's it.
So basically, the whole plot of the game is that Springfield, if you haven't seen the Simpsons show, has been converted into a skate park
'Cause
for
that
the
happens.
annual skate
You know.
tour.
You know,
Just randomly.
throw some rails and half pipes on everything. And, it's a
And
skate
and
park.
you
Just
basically
on all the infrastructure.
you're able to choose one of 9 characters
four of them actually work. No,
for the
just a
grand
little-
prize, right? And all of the characters in this game are voiced by the actual characters on the show.
That's cool though.
Good.
Yeah, it is pretty cool.
Yeah, like Billy West, right?
each
No, I
character-
think he's from Futurama.
Now, here's where I think I thought that was pretty cool. Each character has over 40 unique moves. So you have 9 characters with 40 unique moves
Like
Now-
total or per character?
per character. 40 moves
Oh,
per
okay,
character.
well,
That's pretty cool.
Impressive.
But enough about how good this game is. Let's talk about why it's bad.
well, wait, hold on. Just last bit of background. It was released in
Was it?
November
2002.
2002
PS2.
in North America and December 2002 in Europe.
And it was developed by the Code Monkeys and published by
Yeah.
Fox Interactive and EA.
EA.
Uh-oh.
Oh,
There
boy,
comes that-
That's
All
a
right,
red
so
flag.
comes
this
that name.
This is the BART model for the Simpsons skateboarding.
Let me see. That's nightmare
It looks
inducing.
pretty bad.
The animate. Okay,
His
so
eyes are like
His-
entirely popping out of his
and
head.
then there's this cover art which just it doesn't look quite right. Like
Let me see.
there's something off about it.
Yeah.
The Bart doesn't really look right.
For the people who are listening right now, just so you know, the anime you have to look it up on your own. The
Simpsons
animations
skateboarding.
are so bad. I mean, they're like super bad. And this was in 2002. This was after
We're
Superman.
starting to get. Yeah, we're starting
to get
We
into
should be getting.
we're starting
a little higher level of quality here.
Yeah, exactly. We're getting into the area of games where there should be better graphics, and it's not. It's not up to speed with everything else. So we'll get into the gameplay. So
let's talk about the game controls.
the controls. If you watch gameplay videos of the Simpsons skateboarding, the first hour of playing this game is all just learning about the controls because nobody knows how to play it.
Yeah, the controls really were not standardized until sort of the mid 2000s. So, but all the games before then, it's just a nightmare trying to play.
This was after Pro Skater because they had to draw off something for it to even exist in the first place.
It's true.
But they didn't take the control scheme from Pro Skater. They made their own control scheme, which is absolutely awful. You skate with you press one of the sticks down or something, not move the stick. It's a strange control scheme, which did contribute to how awful this game was because you couldn't even pull off any of the cool moves.
Oh, so, yeah, the 40 plus
those 40 plus
unique moves, but you can't use any of them.
Yeah.
So yeah, that Simpsons skateboarding, it didn't receive
It was bad.
any
bad.
positive
Really bad.
feedback. Everyone said it was awful.
You have to look it up. Please do yourself a favor. Get a good laugh and just look up the Simpsons skateboarding and look at the graphics. Maybe you'll have nightmares, but that's not my fault.
And that's why we put the Simpsons skateboarding at number
Let's
3.
move on and Ride to Hell Retribution.
1%.
This game was so this was a GTA clone set in the 50s, and it was announced in 2008 as Ride to Hell. However,
2008, so that's getting a lot more recent. That was only
Yes.
10
I know
years ago.
this was remember this is 2 years before Red Dead Redemption.
yes.
That came out in 2010?
Yes.
Oh.
So- so-
yeah, okay.
This game was announced in 2008, and it got delayed severely, and it was supposed to be like an open world game set in the 60s. You would control like a biker.
Wait, the 60s or the 50s?
60s.
Okay.
However, it got delayed and turned into Ride to Hell Retribution, which came out in 2013.
So that's 3 years after Red Dead Redemption.
Oh my god.
Yes.
Are you
I
mean,
serious?
didn't Skyrim come out in 2011?
I don't
I
know.
think it was 2012, but still, I mean,
Hold on.
if you have a game
No, Skyrim in 2011. This was 2 years after
Oh
Skyrim,
my
and it
God.
was still
Yes.
garbage.
oh my god, that is crazy.
So this came out in 2013. This game became a linear car combat game, except you're on a motorcycle. And one of the reasons that it's so terrible is because the glitches. This game was barely playable. Most of the time, your motorcycle would fall through the ground.
Classic. You'd think if they delayed it,
They would
it was
fix
announced
it.
They would
in
fix that
2008,
glitch.
and they took 5 years to release it. You'd think at least that wouldn't be a problem. Or at least something so baseline as your motorcycle falling through the ground.
Exactly. So the reviews for this game were absolutely awful. They had, you know how you have 1 out of 10 or 2 out of 10? Some of these people gave it 0.5, half of a
0.5
point
stars?
out of 10.
Yeah.
Out of 10.
Oh, out of 10.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's how bad the game was. It was incredibly awful.
It only allowed forward movement,
Yeah.
and you had to
Yeah.
use ramps and power slides.
The highest points they gave was Game Informer, and they gave it a 2 out of 10.
That's pretty generous. I'm not gonna lie.
That is pretty generous for a game that literally glitches you through the map.
Now in the theme with racing things,
Our number one.
Our
big
number
rigs over the road racing.
Oh my
is a
god.
This
Classic.
game is probably the best game of all time. No, it's not. It's horrible.
No, it's the best game of all time.
This game was released in 2003, I believe, as Big Rigs Over the Road
I am
Racing.
proud to be born in the same year as this game.
You would drive trucks in a race. That is what this game is.
It's supposed to be that,
Yeah.
but in reality,
yeah.
just getting into it. First of all, your opponent never moves.
The AI
He
was
just,
broken.
The AI, it just sits there.
Remember, this is in pre-alpha state. They
Social-
released it as pre-alpha.
And this is
Social
supposed to be a
commentary.
racing game where your opponent doesn't move.
exactly.
Let's talk about how many so much different trucks and so many different. There were 5 maps. 2 of them actually work in the final game. The other will crash your game. There are
Just as soon
4.
as you open it.
There are 4 different trucks to choose from. That's right, 4 different trucks
Wow.
that all handle the same. Speaking of trucks and how they handle, these trucks I think are amazing because they have no friction. These trucks
Or no collision. They're ghosts.
These trucks can drive up mountains.
They go
I'm
faster
serious.
when you drive up
when you
mountains.
drive up mountains, you actually go faster.
And you don't collide into anything. You drive through like
You
towns
drive through
and stuff.
everything.
These
There's this
trucks
part with the bridge.
can
and
phase
when,
through bridges.
Yeah, when you go on the bridge, you just go like you go through it and you go under to the ground below the bridge. And you just
So-
pass through every building.
That was just the forward motion. Now we have the reverse motion.
These trucks can achieve warp speed if you hold down the
They
backwards key for long
Do
enough.
not stop accelerating if you are moving
It's just-
backwards.
it's infinite
you
speed.
exit the map.
Yeah,
Like-
it's
Yeah.
just infinite speed. You can
Speaking
go
of
as
that, you
fast
can
as
exit
you
the
want.
map.
As a physics student right now, I can say that the things these trucks do is not possible. Thank you.
Thank you for your,
All right,
for your
thank you,
qualified
Sterling.
input. And not to mention the trucks also seem to not have taillights. Or they do, but they're floating off the back of the truck. And they look like they were drawn with the smudge tool in Photoshop.
All right, so here is the actual speed of going backwards. The vehicle can accelerate with practically no upper speed limit. It is possible to accelerate till reaching 1.23 times 10 to the 37th power miles per hour. That is 5.8 times 10 to the 20th power light years per second.
Hey guys.
Oh my god.
Hey guys, everything you're saying about these trucks just makes me want to play this game. So how is
I
it
know,
bad?
Yeah, that's why
How
I
is
said I
it-
think it's the best
How
game
is this
in the
game
world.
bad? I
mean,
would love to
you
go,
don't
like-
collide into anything. You can't lose. You can reach
Yeah.
warp speed. You're
That
riding
is-
a big
that
rig.
is
I would
literally-
love to ride a big rig at
That is
light speed. Have
10
you guys
to the
seen
20th
that,
power the speed
I
of
think
light.
it's called a Shockwave. It's like the 18-wheeler with the jet engine on the back.
Sounds
It
pretty
comes
I
to
have
the
not.
Houston Air
Big
Show. It's a
rigs.
big rig that goes 324 miles an hour. It's
That's awesome.
it's
Big
insane,
rigs
and
over
so
the
that really
road
reminds
racing.
me of this game.
Not to mention the back cover of the game is a complete lie. It says from the desert to the plains, you'll be hauling loads and trying to stay one step ahead of the law as you climb into your big rig for nonstop driving action.
I mean,
Not to mention there are 0 cops in this game.
I mean, it wouldn't be hard to avoid the police if you're going, faster. than
Yeah,
the
if you
speed of
don't, if you
light,
just
so.
phase through everything. And one final thing, there were multiple releases of the game. There was one release further on where the truck actually moved, but if it reached the finish line before you, nothing happens.
It
And either way, as
stops
soon as
right
you
before it
cross,
finished.
It stops and says "Your winner," which became a giant.
You are
And
winner.
it's
You
hilarious.
are winner.
It's a classic game. Everyone should play.
Yeah, so that is the second episode of the Joystick.
Thank you.
I thank you very much for tuning in and listening to the Joystick.
Play big rigs.
Thanks for having me.
Remember to listen to everybody else's podcasts. They're super awesome. And that's the bell. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. We'll see you next
Play big
time.
rigs.